Welcome to the next episode of our show here. I'm here with Kim Serafini, founder and CEO of Positive Prime, one of our awesome members. And I'm so pumped to have this conversation with Aron because I've had a few riffs with him, both via the Zooms and through email. And he's an absolute wonderful package of a human. He is an athlete. He's recently transitioned from being a champion rower as a junior athlete, breaking a bunch of records. That single sport wasn't enough for him. He's now into triathlons. So he's also one of our highly regarded, I'd say, Positive Prime members. Something that gets thrown around quite a bit at Positive Prime is the word edify, and I had to look it up. And Kim embodies the edify. She will edify people to the hills, and she did this with Aron. So I was absolutely pumped to have my first conversation with Aron. So that was a bit of a long-winded introduction to the legend. Aron, welcome. Kim, welcome. How are you going?
Do you know, it is an honor, privilege, and pleasure to be here with you. It is infinitely easier to actually edify somebody who is extraordinary and leads with their heart, and somebody who really is the embodiment of all that which they preach or teach. Benny, if I was edifying you, I would basically be doing this really generous gesture of helping others to see the very best in you. And we know from a lot of positive psychology and neuroscience, these social sciences have actually helped us to really and truly understand that the way that sometimes people actually are with us depends upon how we see them or perceive them. And so you can have one human being, one individual, who actually, because of our fabulous characters and personalities and our cultures and societies, shows up in different kinds of ways with different groups of people. And so one of the great joys that I have is actually helping facilitate the way that somebody might actually approach another person with a completely upregulated, uplifted view of them. I actually think it really helps this delicious juiciness. I'm pretty sure that it brings together an opportunity to really optimize the exchange, the connection, and the possibilities of that, the consequences and implications. That's one of the reasons why I do it. People say I'm always their best friend who's their best PR agent. And what that really means is that I see your gifts and your talents, and I see your strengths, and I see the possibilities and potentials, and I'm just committed to helping to reveal that and help to develop that. So, Aron, that is what I initially probably saw in you, was this absolutely phenomenal human being who walks their talk and who is unique and has remarkable strengths and talents and gifts that absolutely need to be shared with the world. And you just being you inspires people around you. And so, with Benny, it is really and truly a gift. It's a blessing that we have to now help you share your story and spread this incredible Aronism with the world, because the world needs you and it needs you now. So I hope that's been helpful, but take it away, Aron, and just let everybody feel, first and foremost, who you really are.
I want to say thank you for inviting me, Kim, because we met a few months ago and I was excited about what you're doing. You're excited about what I'm doing, and the question is, who am I and what am I doing? Kind of like Benny mentioned, I was an international rower for the last 12 years, now a triathlete. But kind of what has fueled my whole life is that I have a visual impairment called retinitis pigmentosa, and at the age of 7, I was told you're never going to see by the age of 20. And that really floored me at the age of 7. And I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to challenge and be curious and see myself not having a disability. And that's kind of been my motto for my whole life so far, is I've got these amazing gifts, these amazing abilities, and I can do two things. I can wallow and say, oh, I can't see. And I have days like that where I want to see, but I can't. But my whole ethos is I have this amazing ability. I'm this superhero. You watch Superman or Wonder Woman, and that's how I see myself every day in every way, is that I have this internal gift of being able to taste, being able to smell, being able to touch, being able to memorize, being all these amazing things. And yet I want more. I want to show people at the end of the day, we have this ability. And that's kind of what I do, is I have an ability to do what I want to do. And people see that. It's like, Aron, doing all these amazing things to inspire people. But at the end of the day, I'm just being myself. The same way you're being yourself, Kim, and Benny, you're being yourself. Because when we're ourselves in our full essence, that's who we are. So I've been an athlete. I've lived in different continents. I've been in different education systems. I've gone meditating across the world. I have a podcast called Partially Excited. What else? I've gone meditating for 100 hours in a few weeks. I'm a massage therapist. I'm a Reiki therapist. I can snap people's spines back into place. I can find knots that people can't find. I can look at people and see their biomechanics. And for a guy who can only see 50% in the daytime, nothing at nighttime, my spidey senses are tingling all the time. So that's kind of who I am and what I am.
Thanks, Aron. That's amazing. Yeah, I think you probably can feel, I guess, like with those spidey senses, you can feel the resonance through conversation. And when we riffed last time on podcasts, that's such a special thing, especially at these times where we don't have all the direct contact. This medium and having your special spidey senses allows us to connect on that deeper level and really hear your story and feel you. So I just want to throw a bit of gratitude back your way, mate, for those conversations and the conversations that you're having out in the wider world with your podcast. Myself and you connected deeply over the peak performance space, because we do love that. I'm not an athlete by any means. I do love to surf, but I do love to think about the mechanics that go into that and how we can optimize ourselves. So it's fantastic to hear from you as an athlete. And I'd like to know a little bit about the concept, which you understand wholly, of positive priming your day. So what are your routines that you go through throughout the day when you are trying to step into that power?
You know, when I was a rower at the very beginning, I didn't know anything about positive prime. I knew nothing about holistic therapies. I knew nothing about meditating, but inside me, I knew there was something bigger. And over the last maybe 12 years, I've been focused on meditating and, high performance. But when I discovered positive prime, it kind of gave me an answer of everything I've been doing so far is priming myself. So when I get up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, I come back, I check my heart rate, see what my resting heart rate is, and that gives me an indication of my stress levels, sleep, etc. I stick on my either hypnosis, positive prime session, then I have breakfast and I'll watch something educational, and that kind of gets my mind functioning. If I'm doing a massive training session that day, like when I lived in Ireland, I was in a hypoxia center, which is an altitude center. So I'd spend an hour and a half just meditating, get my body and mind prepared, because when you go into those centers doing 2-kilometer rowing tests, it's like hell. And, but yet there's a sense of flow in that. So I eat my breakfast. My routine breakfast is porridge with fruit, nuts, seeds, protein powders, amino acid powders, whatever my nutritionist has recommended for that block. Then I go training, and in that training, it's, you're in the middle of hell, but you're in a state of flow where it's like, wow, we've got, music pounding, coaches effing and blinding at you, calling out stats, you're lifting weights, you're pumping 2-kilometer sprints at 14% oxygen, and you're just in a state of flow. And it's like, wow, it's kind of like meditation in some way. And then I come home, I recover, and then I start my business, which is my podcasting, growing Facebook groups with my dad and my uncle. And then after that, it's time to, just kick up and enjoy and rest for the rest of the day after my second or third session of the day. And overdoing that for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, it becomes a second nature and a lifestyle. I describe high performance as like becoming a priest or a monk, because that's you live. You live for training, you live for racing, and it's an adrenaline junkie. And I love adrenaline junkie, a guy who went down, you know, hills and a mountain board at 60 kilometers, catching surfing waves. You just enjoy that physical endurance.
That feeling of being in, like you mentioned, hell is also like the middle of the cyclone, isn't it? It's the eye of the beast.
Yeah.
And you're getting all the endorphins and the neurochemicals like firing. And that's why, you know, we love to chase it. But I actually think when we talk about peak performance, the way you're talking about it is optimal performance, because you realize the importance of your recovery as well. So you've got your on-ramps, like I like to use the metaphor for positive priming, is your on-ramp to the challenge that you've got to do for the day, whether that's athletic or mind. But then you've also got your off-ramps, like how am I going to wind down so I can get that recovery? So I wake up in the morning and my heart rate isn't through the roof because I haven't slept. And yeah, you're really thinking about it holistically. And I think that comes from all those hours of meditation and, you know, really pushing the bar. And I'd love to hear from you a little bit about your co-design or your evolution of the Positive Prime platform and how you use it, because that's something that I've really been fascinated with. And that's a huge part of our journey at Positive Prime, is that the people who come in and they utilize the platform and the sessions and they create them in the way that they want them to be are really pushing the boundaries. So I'd love to open up a riff about that.
Sure. So a couple of months ago, a friend said, you gotta jump on this call with this lady called Kim Starvini. And I was like, all right, okay, I'll jump on. I don't know what this Positive Prime crack is, and I'll jump on. And Kim gave this amazing presentation that blew my mind away. I was like, I gotta hop on the call with this woman. She's doing something amazing. And her and I chatted. I signed in as a free member and then upgraded. But what I discovered using this for the first time is the freedom of being able to optimize my human performance on a different scale. And what I mean by a different scale, it's not lifting weights, or it's not endurance, it's not the 60. It's kind of like a mechanic going with his drill and looking under the chassis and realizing, if I change this screw here and that screw there and move the chassis 30 degrees left or 30 degrees right, I can get an extra 15% of my performance. And that's kind of what blew my mind with Positive Prime, is that I'm watching, even though I'm not watching the boards or the sessions because I physically can't see, my body was just like food, like, oh my God, this is creme brulee. I love the combination of the egg and vanilla and cream. And that's kind of what my body is like, I want more. And I upgraded to start designing my own session, which was designed for more peak performance as an athlete. My body just kept absorbing and absorbing and absorbing like food, and my stats went through the roof. And then I thought, can I add frequency music to this? Can I add, you know, meditation music to this? Can I add this? Because as an athlete, you take supplements. And the thing called a stack, where you stack, you know, creatine with branched chain amino acids, with protein powder, with berries, with porridge, and that gives you fuel. And I see Positive Prime as fuel for the body in a way where I watch it and I do my sessions, I do my work, and it gives me the ability to perform at another level. I'll give an example. I did a interview there a few weeks ago and I wasn't feeling confident. I watched the confidence session and I love the music, the Mario music. And I hopped on and I had confidence. And you know, I watch my own sessions and I do tests and my numbers have gone through the roof. And I believe, you know, Positive Prime is connecting me to my internal genius in a way that it's like a Lamborghini can gain an extra 0 to 60, another fast 2 seconds. And I'm watching it. I physically can't see the session. I can hear the session, but I'm eating it like food. And I think that's what's happening, is that our brain is digesting in another way. Our body is absorbing in a different way. But I hop on my training sessions, my life, everything, it's just gone through the roof. And I thank God the universe threw Kim Sarvini my way because I enjoy what she's doing and what I'm doing, and there's a mingle and a, you know, the hemispheres are being connected. And I see, you know, adding virtual reality is another element, and I'm just constantly thinking about how can I make another element and stack on top another stack and top another stack to create the ultimate high performance, because that's who I am. I'm a high performance athlete. I'm looking for that extra 1%, regardless of what it is, once it's in the rules of Olympics and Paralympics, and that's what I do.
Aron, you look, I'm crying actually. I've got a little tear and I've got a little frog in my throat, because even though you think that you were lucky or fortunate to come across me, I'm so much more, I think, really and truly lucky or fortunate that there are people like you and Benny who look at something like Positive Prime, and there's actually a little key for me, and that's that you use it or you apply it. There are actually so many people who are looking for that 1%. Now, that might be that they're sad and they want to feel slightly better for a minute or two, or they're really frustrated or angry, and they just want to tone it down a little bit so that it's not so destructive, right? And so the incredible thing is that we have this really rather magnificent neuroscience and positive psychology based activity. For me, it feels a little bit like a mind massage, or an emotional mind massage. I believe it allows you to connect to source. And for everybody who's listening, this is going to go like, whoa, way out there, woo woo. So just brace yourself. When Aron and I first spoke, I said, you know, I've actually been reading some research that suggests that there are consciousness cells, like there are brain cells in your heart. Your heart has an intelligence. And you also have consciousness or thinking cells in your stomach. There is a stomach brain. And some of this is actually starting to be better understood in functional medicine and integrative medicine. And interestingly enough, we actually talk about at Positive Prime a formula. We have a very, very sophisticated formula that actually makes the whole experience sexy, but it means that we have a certain number of a certain type of photographs that appear in any one of these sessions, these audiovisual presentations, of which there's 1,000 frames that are like flashcards. And every single time you press play, it reshuffles the deck of cards, if you can imagine that, and they then appear in another random order. Now, from a mathematical point of view, it actually totally, completely trips your brain if you try to think about the different compilations. It's infinite. I mean, truly. So the crazy thing is I actually said to Aron, I have a suspicion that when you see a Duchenne smile, right, a genuine, sincere, warm, honest smile, the retina in your eyes processes that and sends messages to your mirror neurons in your brain. And your mirror neurons then communicate with your endocrine system. And hormonally, you start to produce more neurotransmitters and more endorphins. And here, I don't know, I'm not an ophthalmologist, I'm not a specialist doctor, but I wonder, and what even more, I'm curious, because so many advances have occurred in the last 5 to 10 years in medical science. We now understand more than we ever could have imagined we would understand 15 or 20 years ago, right? So what I wonder is, can Aron's eyes actually see a Positive Prime session? Because just because he thinks he doesn't have the visual ability, I'm not sure that his eyes don't have the ability to consume or absorb and allow in the content that then actually does work with his brain and his body. And, you know, of course, I'm influenced, in case you don't know, about quantum physics. And I watched an amazing movie called What the Bleep Do We Know? And that literally, I think, changed the trajectory of my life about, oh gosh, it'd be more than 15 years ago. And I thought, look, if plants could experience music, which is a vibration or a frequency, and they can grow, And if plants can actually receive ionized, alkalizing water, or in particular energized water, and it changes the way they grow, we probably have within us the ability to receive some kind of intervention or input, some kind of stimuli. We don't even understand what it's doing, right? And so one of the things that I really was committed to with Aron is a very special service that we offer at Positive Prime. So if anyone's interested, you have to actually get in touch with us personally, but we have hundreds of pieces of content or subjects, topics, produces these things called sessions. Imagine them as individual programs. And we actually have the ability to mix and merge up to 4 or 5 programs into one. So instead of having 1,000 frames per session, you've actually got about 5,000 frames. And then you stack personalization. So you add in images that are meaningful and significant to you based upon your goals, your desires, your ambitions, what's driving you, what's really triggering you, anything or everything you're grateful for, anything or everything that you're really, you're ignited by. And when you add in the personalization, it is a serious quantum stack, way beyond the mixing and the merging of 5 sessions. Well, Aron, you're incredible because you went through all the content and you decided which of the 5 sessions or 4 sessions were critical to you and the way that you experienced them. And then you told us what they were, and then we created what's called a super mix for you personally. So do you remember what those sessions were called? Just for anybody who's interested, like, what are the sessions that Aron watches?
I think one was, I can't remember. I think one was for healing. One was, so it's called Aron Peak Performance. That's the title of the session. And I have a friend who designed meditation music, and that's in the background. And in the session, there was cell healing, the improving performance, and I think the third one was to do with happiness. I can't remember the fourth one. But I use it every day, nearly every day, and it's amazing. And I love to add 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sessions in it because I think it's, you know, it's like an athlete. Every 6 weeks you change your program. And I would love to see, you know, 10,000, 12,000 frames per second, because I watch my sessions on 10x speed. And at 10x speed, I'm actually able to see it at a speed where it's normal, and I'm digesting it like you see a Labrador eating its food, where it's just eating and doesn't even think about, you know, digesting. And I'm enjoying it. I watched the virtual reality at 10x speed, and it's amazing because it's just flicking through, and it's just like those old-fashioned camera shots were just 1 second after another second. But I came off and I was like wired. It was like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, if virtual reality can do that, I would go if you had that augmented reality and virtual reality and, you know, on a blockchain. And kind of this is where the tech side of me comes about, is how can you make this in another level of where it's, you know, it's the body's digesting in a way where, oh my God, I could actually increase my human performance. And this is why I talk about the eyes, is that in the space of using this service called Positive Prime, I've been able to see print for the first time in 8 years. I've been able to see the color for the first time in 8 years. And it's like, wow. And I do believe on your points that we can see, we can heal ourselves. And this is where I'm exploring with Partially Excited, my podcast and brand, is how can we add neuroplasticity technology with the technology that's out there to create a, I'm not going to use the word miracle or cure, because we are miracles and we have our cure. It's more having a way where I can have benefits that I don't believe that are possible.
That session actually changed my perception of Positive Prime. So I'd been using Positive Prime for months, and I'm talking about Aron's Peak Performance, which may or may not be live. We have to talk to your mate Greg about licensing the music, but I'm sure it will be. He sounds like a frothy dude, so I can't wait to have a chat with him about binaural beats. But that session, the first time I watched it, Aaron said, mate, you got to watch it. It got uploaded to my profile and I watched it at night, which was, I thought at the time was a bad idea because literally had my headphones in and then I was like, ooh. But that's the only way I can describe it, which is kind of like a rising resonant energy, a flow state. And I was like, whoa, I don't really like working at night, but I had to get an extra oomph and I didn't want coffee. And I was like, boom. And I was like, crap, I got to send this to all the team. If they haven't seen this yet, this is at least for me, from that perspective of, the session, you want to get that extra level, that 1% or the 10, depending on where you're at. Some people use positive prime with the slower things, slower imagery and sounds, because that's really just more of a nurturing hug. This is like a supercharged bolt of energy to you. And so that's my favorite session, the one I've watched the most. And the reason I actually got introduced to positive prime was through a dear friend, Rob Gronbeck, who's an amazing performance coach and right into the kind of technology, neurophysiology fields. And he introduced me and I went over to Rob's after I'd spoken to Aaron again, or had an email chat about using Oculus Rift. And because Aaron was telling me about Oculus Rift, you don't know what that is. It's this VR technology and you're basically full immersive experience. You just dropped in, locked in, a little bit like the Matrix. And it went to another level. And I was like, Aaron's really onto something here. He's pushing the boundaries. And so I'm going to say to Kim, I don't know how we're going to do it, but let's get those 10,000, 12,000 sessions in. Let's see, because that's that flooding that we talk about in a positive sense of, bypassing the conscious mind into the subconscious. And you just can't help but smile and be elevated. And the other good thing about that, it wasn't having a coffee late at night, because we know how bad it is to have coffee late at night. I was able to sleep after I'd done my work. So there's a positive for someone who's looking for working into the night and being able to still get a good night's sleep, but it will fire you up. So Aaron, I'd love to ask you a question about other athletes. So yourself being an athlete, how do you think this could be used across the board with performance for athletes of all abilities? Because Rob uses this for online gaming, which is interesting, as a kind of positive primer. But how do you think for physical athletes this could be used?
You talked about the Matrix, and I've been itching to use vision boards for years. I've been looking at all these. I'm a holistic therapist, and my biggest problem is kind of what positive prime has solved. But I think as an athlete looking at this and using this every day, it's providing we're living through the performance as you're doing it. So I watch the session, I listen to the music, but while I'm watching it, it's like I'm there. I'm in the session doing the race. And that's, I feel like positive prime and virtual reality through the Oculus Rift can provide another level of performance. A couple of years ago, I did a retreat, and the retreat was design a house in your head of what you want your life to look at. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if you could add that to the reality where you watch something like in YouTube style format and get the same benefits you would if you did a real session. And I believe, right now in the Olympic and Paralympic and high performance state, is that there's no other tool that can give you that sense of where I can watch myself race, I can watch myself move, I can watch how my body's moving. And this is what positive prime of virtual reality and Oculus Rift brings, is how can I increase my breathing rate through performance? How can I create more muscle? How can I create more, be lean? I gave this to my uncle, and my uncle is fully blind and he's a beast of animal. If you think I'm worse, he's worse. He broke every weight machine in the gym in Ireland, and he was lifting 3 times more than the rugby lads were. And so I put it on him. I need a similar experience. This guy is totally blind, can't see anything, can only see 5% vision. He put it on and he had a similar effect. And I thought, wow, if a beast of an animal like that can produce those level of performances and do that, What could you do with Olympic athletes who are running 9 seconds for 100 meters? Could they get to 8 seconds? Could they get to 7 seconds? Because I think it's mind versus matter. Our body is like a Ferrari. Who's driving the Ferrari? The soul. If you optimize the soul to a new level, can you get faster? Oh yeah. Can you get stronger? Oh yeah. Can you get leaner? Oh yeah. So there's no level of ceiling, and anything is possible. But we define it's impossible to get 7 minutes for 100 meters in the Olympic final. That is possible, but are you looking in the right way? And this is where I see Positive Prime being a tool where I can increase my breathing rate. I can increase my heart rate. I've actually done Positive Prime session with my heart rate, and I dropped 5 beats, 2 beats, 3 beats. I've taken 3 weeks off training and used Positive Prime as training, as a training tool. I came back with 3 weeks off training. I did an FTP test. If anyone doesn't know, it's a functional threshold test for biking. I was up 15 watts. And every test I do so far, I'm up 15 watts so far. I've gone from 193 to 228 in the space of 2 months using Positive Prime sessions on top of my training. I'm using it as a recovery tool. I'm using it as a way to see, how can I keep training, but yet not go through the physical pain, but the mental pain. And this is where I see the mental gym becoming now more important, because we all have the same level of fitness, the same level of strength and conditioning, the same level of sports science. Everything is similar. So everyone has an even playing ground. But I see the mental gym now becoming the place where the new frontier of how can I add extra performance, the mental gym. And that's where I see, to answer your question, that's where I see where sport is going now. It's no longer about physical fitness, it's about mental fitness.
Oh yeah, you and Rob have to have a jam, because his business is called the Brain Room. I love that you mentioned your uncle as well. I wonder, is there anyone that you've shared Positive Prime with who wasn't already a beast of an athlete, and you thought, oh, this would probably be really helpful for them, for one reason or another?
I shared it with my dad and my sister, and they had similar experiences. Not the same session, in different sessions. I just gave them my login details, and they scoured around, see what they fit. My sister is looking to become a ballerina and a musician. She's also visually impaired, and she had similar experiences. My dad had similar experiences, and I was trying to figure out why is they're having similar experiences, not like mine, but very similar in the structure of the story essence and the narrative. And the answer I keep coming to is that it's bypassing the subconscious to the binaural code. And anyone that doesn't know computer language, binary code is zeros and ones. And that's the pure language code for computing. And I believe as someone as anatomy and physiology, to a level where our nervous system relies on binary code, 0 1s, to be able to optimize the synapses in the nerve, which allows you to explode really quick. So I think when someone watches a Positive Prime session, the synapses in the brain is bypassing, kind of shutting down, to allow these messages flood to the body and to be able to digest it in a way that they can feel, I feel happy. I feel I can recover. I can feel I can perform. I can feel financially free, earn money, whatever the session is, it's bypassing and designing a whole new blueprint in the binary code of an individual on a neuroplasticity level. Think about your neuroplasticity as a piece of clay. A Positive Prime session is forming that clay into a piece of sculpture, and it's allowing the individual to experience something that's out of the level, because the soul is kicking in and saying, hey, I'm going to Las Vegas because I know how to get money, because I just watched this money session on Positive Prime, and X, Y, and Z happens, and they're up $1,200 in Las Vegas in the casinos, because they're allowing the soul and the genius to step in.
We just got an email a couple of days ago from Yana within the Positive Prime community that her son has been watching a session specifically to help him with his golf, and this little fella, 16-year-old, hit a hole in one. So I kind of like the talk of the going to Vegas, but 16-year-olds hitting hole-in-ones or you doing PBs, that's where my froth levels peak. Mate, and you also, the way you describe that as well, it's kind of like this episode isn't just for athletes. This episode is now for potters because you talk about clay. The episode's for I'm sure Mario on our team, who's our weapon designer, will be able to, compute that language, to use another computer pun. So thank you so much, mate. You've got a poetic way with words, and it's fantastic to hear how you talk about the technology and also about the soul. I love that you've implemented or talked about the soul and spirit. Where does that come from? I know Kim wants to jump in. Let's jump in on soul with Kim.
Oh, I love it. I agree, Aaron. It's magical to listen to you. It really is wonderful with the way that you express. And, of course, it was completely stimulating within me this desire now to find some extraordinary artists, creatives, and have them effectively follow the Aron path. Imagine what emerges from their souls. And for anyone who's having that artistic block, you've just totally cracked me wide open to the possibilities, the potential for masterpieces being created, because quite frankly, humans get out of the way of being human. And there are some magnificent aspects to us being human, but I'm sure everybody's very well aware there is a human reptilian part of our brain that causes us to either freeze or to fly or to fight. And so much of the world has, quite frankly, a negative priming effect, whether that's social media or it's general media or it's just the state of affairs. It is almost impossible for any one of us to exist in our modern world and actually not be negatively primed by the environment that we actually exist in. So from an epigenetics point of view, I will be really honest with you. One of the reasons why I originally created Positive Prime for me was I actually wanted to flood myself with everything that wasn't my reality at the time. And so I didn't want to have me exposed to what was really going on in the situations that I was in, because they were heartbreaking and they were annoying and they were, quite frankly, disempowering. And so I actually created the original experience so that I could make sure that there was this incredible amount, like a huge amount of goodness and purity and harmony and serenity, and reminding myself that I actually get to choose to create my life and the experience of my life. And sometimes I watch Positive Prime just to remind myself, or as a pattern interrupt, right? I'm now aware enough to notice that I'm being a way I don't really want to be. And often it's because, something outside of me has tripped me up or floored me. And I'm like, I have something that literally causes me to completely change my state of being. And then I can be the kind of person that I want to be in the world and go out there and be kind and help others and serve in a completely different way, And that's joy. That makes me frothy, Benny, when I'm being the nicest version of myself. Here at Positive Prime, we have an amazing team member. Her name is Mayumi. Yes, she's Japanese. And we call her our Chief Kindness Officer. And I often say to her, you are so much nicer than me. I'm not really that nice. Thank goodness for Mayumi, because she's just kind in her core. Now, of course, I'm kind sometimes, but actually Positive Prime really can help me to drop into that heart space. And it reminds me of being more kind and compassionate and gentle. And, that's also important in this day and age.
Is there, I've got a question for you, Aaron, about, is there a piece of advice that you've been given over the years that really stands out for you and something that you've gone on to share with others?
Oh my God, Benny, where can I pick? I've been given advice in bathrooms of don't change yourself. I've been given advice in other bathrooms of you're gonna do big things, don't change who you are. And the bathroom seems to be my common parts of wisdom, where everything happens. But I think you know, to be honest, I can't answer your question because I've been given so many tidbits throughout my life from gurus and high performance athletes and coaches. But I'll share a little story that this isn't advice, but this kind of changed my outlook. I prepared for a very big race there in 2000. I was in the best shape ever. I was the leanest I was, and I went into that race and I lost that race because of different factors. Went back to my strength and conditioning coach and I was furious. And he said, what happened? And I explained the whole race, what happened. He's like, okay, what do you think is your problem? And I said, I don't have a problem. He said, okay, what like where are you at? And I also got dropped from the team. I was number one in the team. I got dropped, and I was also furious with that. And he said, all right, we're going to spend 3 months at Hill. And I was like, all right, okay. We went into the altitude center, and we spent 3 months high intensity training. He effing blinded me for 3 months straight, music pounding, and the whole building knew, oh, that's Aron and Darragh training upstairs, don't mind them. And by the time May hit, I was back at number one in the team. I was the fittest I ever was. I was mentally sharp. But what that taught me is that life throws you situations. And it's like, so what? That happens. And that's kind of been my big advice to myself is, so what? And also, what can I make better of this? And that's what kind of taught me, is that in that experience, I lost a race. I didn't come first. I got dropped from the team. And I found a better solution that made me become the best athlete I was, to a point where no one could outsprint me in the single rowing boat. No one could outsprint me in the rowing machine. No one could, because I figured out my problem. I figured out something better. And that's kind of been my big advice moving into triathlon. Is the coach I have right now, his advice is, what can you do better? Because life will throw you lifes and curves, and it'll throw you disappointment and success. But once you have your what can I do better, I do an FTP, I do a test. At that particular point in the test, what can I do better? What can I figure out to make that better for the next time? Because life throws us many opportunities. And for someone, I thought, for me, I thought it'd be like, oh, no, that's done, whatever. I'm now living in Spain. That opportunity came 4 or 3 years ago. I turned it down. Opportunity came around again because the universe knew I was ready. And I do believe that, the universe is listening to us. There are people around us in energetic form listening to us, and they know what we want. But sometimes we don't know. And sometimes you just gotta figure out, what can I do better? So that's kind of been my biggest advice so far, is what can I do better?
Glorious piece of advice. It's really about that, like that cue, to use Charles Duhigg, the cycle of like, what's the cue and then the action and the reward. And so a lot of us feel throughout the day, what can I do better? Or they get in that state of like low vibe, and you're like, what can I lean on at this point? And I think I'd like to ask you, what advice would you give to someone who's at that point, and how could they potentially use a positive prime session to get themselves through that low point and back into a space where they can function, or potentially go to that performance level that next performance level that they've been looking to achieve?
What I would use positive prime as the end result, and I'll explain why. Is because the coach, I explained that he understood me on a level where he chatted with me. He understood where I was. He understood me on a level that he could figure out the right session to put me through. And I think, we have all the tools in front of us, but if a person's willing to be open with you and share their biggest problem of what it is, then you know the right session to do, because I could just stick on positive prime and do whatever session, and it may not benefit me because it's not the right session. And I believe as an athlete, it's not about what fits all, it's what fits perfect for you, because Kim and I could fit a size 2 shoe or size 5 shoe, but yes, a high heel could fit her perfect, and a sandal could fit me perfect, but it's the same shoe. And that's how I view everyone, is that we're all different. Same physical shape, same physical performance, but yes, when we customize it and tailor it to the individual, that's when major success happens. So then once I have an idea of what's happening with them, then I say, let's go into positive prime. Because positive prime is a tool to bring performance, the same way you use a drill to drill through a wall to hang a picture. You don't go straight to the drill and drill straight away and then realize the photo and the picture is a 90-degree angle instead of straight. And I think that's what positive prime is. It's a tool to increase performance on all aspects. So once you know the tailored problem, then you can say, okay, I see that confidence is your session. Let's watch it for 4 weeks and come back. Let's watch it for 60 days. Let's watch it for 30 days. And each week tune in and see what's happening, because each week passes, there could be a whole new set of problems that have occurred. Then, okay, I fixed this perfect, and then now this occurred and that occurred. And it's constantly checking in to see, is this working for me? Is this not working for me? Because we may think it's working and it may not. So that's kind of my advice.
I love that advice, Aaron. What's interesting is that sometimes we need to allow ourselves to explore a new and different session that we haven't watched before. And it's almost like you're surrendering to the universe, and you'll watch a session and you go, oh, wow, that's exactly what I needed to experience right now. And I didn't know that I did, right? I'll give you a classic example. Someone was saying to me yesterday that they were going through some relationship strife. And it's a really interesting and rather traumatic experience. And so what's the session that they could watch? Well, they might go to the relationships area and they might choose something from the relationships area. However, what I actually wonder is whether they're best off watching Dr. Diane Shelton's Transcending Trauma. Now, when Dr. Diane Shelton created Transcending Trauma, she was probably talking about some kind of experience that would be helpful for those people who had post-traumatic stress. And a lot of people who, let's just say you're going through a breakup or a divorce or some kind of really difficult situation with their children, they might not automatically believe that they've got post-traumatic stress. So they might not choose Transcending Trauma. And yet the messages within that session are actually perfect for all of us, because life in some way, shape or form has done either little t or big T trauma to all of us, right? And so sometimes you can just release something that you didn't even know you needed released. The other thing that I actually suggested to this particular client yesterday was that they go in and they watch a couple of sessions. There are 2 or 3 on forgiveness. Oftentimes, we give ourselves so much grief when we're going through a tough circumstantial situation. And I believe that just being very gentle on ourselves and asking ourselves to actually do what you did, Aaron. You experienced something that hurt, but then you actually dug deeper and you committed your own integrity to being accountable for you creating the new you. And a lot of people are even afraid of themselves at mastery. I mean, a lot of people are actually more caught up with the sabotaging, like being afraid of success, than they are actually being afraid of failure. that's a well-known fact. Obviously, in performance psychology, fear of success sometimes really overpowers fear of failure. And so people are actually so completely blinded, like a deer in headlights, when they really think of themselves at that mastery level. And so I find that every now and again, I might watch a forgiveness session to forgive myself for feeling less than kind, or forgive myself for actually making the mistakes that I have, or forgive myself for trusting people that I shouldn't have, or forgive myself for giving too much in the wrong directions for the wrong reasons. And so I know it's a long-winded way of saying, try to take some nice big deep breaths and trust yourself to choose a session that really will be amazing, okay? And I don't know if that's perfect as a way to end, but so Aron, you talked about the soul. The soul knows what sessions you need to watch if you're honest with yourself. And only you can sit there in the quiet and hand on heart and think, what is the best session for me right now?
Yeah, and silence is the best answer. I sometimes think is that we've so much noise, we need silence. And when we have silence, our soul screams that you need to watch confidence because that's what you need. And that's sometimes we need silence to answer that question. I agree with you, Kim.
Beautiful. And if silence doesn't work, Kim is very generous and does a what session once a month, where everyone in the Positive Prime community can jump on and ask him what they're going through, or what's happening in their life, and what session she recommends. And I mean, now it's not just about what session. It's like, well, we could talk about what speed, and like, how are you feeling at the moment? What kinds of music can we add? What's your stack look like? Because there's lots of other negatives going on, especially when you're talking about performance coaching, is how can we take ourselves to an environment where we can watch a session where there's a bit more serenity potentially. So yeah, lots of different factors. So I'm looking forward to the next what session. Aron, if you had one piece of advice to give to someone who's not currently positive priming, what would you say?
I would say get into nature, get on the beach, have fun, because you're an amazing individual. You're a superhero. So I would say shut down all technology, go to the beach, have fun, play, and just be, because it's, we live in this virtual insanity where I just have to have this extra 1,000 person come on to my traffic. I have to have, this next session in, and sometimes just chilling out at the beach with your feet up, watching the waves come in sand is the best advice I give people. And funny enough, I gave myself that advice last weekend. I went to the beach, sitting on the sand, watching the waves come in, and all my problems just disappeared, and I got the answer. So that'd be my advice.
Beautiful. That's where I find it as well, mate. Down the beach, in the ocean, connected to source down there. I think with and like you said, like stuck in we have to be on digital, we have to be on technology because it's so ingrained in how we're working. And I find Positive Prime super helpful, because we can be down the tunnel of all this work that we've got to do in our emails and whatever else, and we can just switch windows and watch a session to kind of, like Kim mentioned before, that pattern interrupt is super powerful. Before we head off, Aron, is there anything else that you want to open a riff on? And yeah, just love to open the floor as well if Kim's got any other questions.
Do you have any question to ask him before I throw out my little riff here?
Oh, I'd love you to riff, but maybe this will be part of it. You and I had one of those gorgeous conversations that was about how some people might see you with a disability, and yet the truth is about 100% of us have a disability. And it might be because we think that we're not smart enough, or not beautiful enough, or not rich enough, or not whatever. And I love the mission that you're on to help everybody understand how they make the most of their abilities. So from your perspective, which is quite frankly a beautiful, fresh perspective, can you please just share with everybody what you shared with me? Because it made me think of myself and about myself quite differently. And it was actually a really nice catalyst for me to really think more about what are my abilities, and in fact, what are my disabilities? What is actually holding me back that I need to actually work on or release?
What you just said there, Kim, is how I felt for a long time. And when COVID hit in Ireland, I couldn't get out and run. I couldn't get out and go swim. I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. And I felt like, it's interesting how I have this ability and I've just seen the world turn disabled. And it's a contradiction of what happened, but I do believe that people have a disability, and my tagline is from physical to invisible. I have physical where my vision is deteriorating regardless of what's happening. It's just the natural diagnostics that my doctors have diagnosed with me. But what I've discovered is that someone doesn't have enough money, someone that doesn't feel good, someone's not good enough, someone who thinks they're all forms of disability. And if you break down the word disability, it's turning off the ability we have. So like we have the ability to have clean water, we have the ability to go out and drive, we have the ability to do what we want to do. But we're in the space of, I'm not good enough because I'm not earning $100,000. I'm not good enough because I'm not living in a mansion. I'm not good enough because I'm not successful. And this long train of thought goes. But for someone who spent a long time not in a world that's quite visual and restricted, I do see that people have this amazing ability. And I describe it as a superhero and a superpower because we all are superheroes. We all inspire one another. It's interesting, this morning I was going down for my run and there's a person in my complex I live in has cerebral palsy. And he's walking in with his Zimmer frame and he just came in from town and him and I came across. But I mention that is because there's a guy mid-50s, has seen life and is walking around with a Zimmer frame, but he doesn't care. He's just living life the way it is. And that's a form of people living in their ability and their superpower. And, yeah, things aren't great. Yeah, I can't see. Yeah, I can't walk. Yeah, I can. But there's amazing things. Like I've made Michelin star chefs cry over pizza because I got a good taste. That's my ability. I've made teachers lose their temper in a pop quiz because I can remember information like backwards and forwards to the point where we had the argument. You're right, Aron. I'm right. You're right. You're right. And I said, look at the book. And she's like, okay, you're right. Pop quiz finished. And I mention this is because I was in my superpower. I was in my ability where my memorizing, my taste, my smell. And yet, partially excited is showing people in this world that we're incredible because, Albert Einstein is incredible. Mozart is incredible. Before I hopped on, I was listening to Maria Callas. She's a genius, same with Einstein, same with Newton, same with, everyone that lives in this world is a genius, but yet we don't see it. We're blind. But when we reject ourselves out of the rat race and into the matrix, we are this amazing ability, this amazing individual because, someone can have one hand and one arm. And this is kind of what made me realize when I was rowing, I'd see guys who come in from war, Iraq and Iran, they've limbs blown off and they're putting on orthotic legs and going to race, and I'm racing against them. And I was blown away by how they didn't really care how they looked. They didn't really care about what they did. They were just enjoying what they're doing. And it's time now to remove the label of disability. It's now time to understand how we can become awesome. Because I have a phrase, and it's a little bit expletive, but it's I am effing awesome. And I say that when I'm at that point of fatigue in my sessions, because it reminds me that I am that. And I say this because we have that, you know, I was watching a documentary with my sister of a lady who's a famous ballerina, Alonso, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She was fully blind. She started up a ballet school in Cuba. But yes, she was enjoying what she's doing, and our talent, our gifts, and the ability that we have because we're masters of mastering ourselves. And we focus on enlightenment and nirvana and and samadhi and all this, but actually we have it. We're just 2 degrees left, 2 degrees right. We just need to tune the radio in. Once we're tuned in, oh my God, magic's going to happen. You're going to end up where the green light zones all the way. There's no red lights. You're just skipping through town at full speed. And, that's what I believe that it's time. And the reason why I call it partially excited, because we're all partially excited about something, but we don't really know what it is until we stumble across it and hit our head off a rock and realize, oh my God, this is it. And then they become successful, and then they figure out that I'm here ready to rock and roll. And it's time to rock and roll because, we're all at home. We're all at, figuring out what we want to do, but it's there. Just sit down and at the beach, or put on a positive prime session, or, stick on music, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to play, have fun. We're not here to be perfect. We're here to be messy, in our PJs, doing Zooms or doing PJs on a bike. And it's about having fun, because when we have fun, we're in the state of play. And what I discovered recently is when I play, when I don't have expectations, oh my God, things happen. And that's kind of my advice to be, let's see how we can make that genius in you, because why are we here right now? Everyone on this planet could just leave if they had the choice, but we're here for a mission. My mission is to bring people into the extraordinary ability that they have, because we're here for a talented genius.
The perfect riff to round it up. Fun and play. Go out there and make art, make your own art, and share it with the world. Bare your soul, share your soul. Thank you so much, Aron. Thank you to Kim as well. It's like kind of, I'm very grateful at the fact that I get to hang out with such insightful people, and it's kind of like my own coaching session while I'm being a little bit of a podcast host here. Aron, what's the best way for people to check out your podcast, check out you as the awesome human that you are, and potentially get in contact?
Cool. So I am all over the place. The website's called partiallyexcited.com. It's under construction as usual. I don't know when it'll be finished, like the best music as it is, but you can catch me on partiallyexcited.com. You can catch me on Facebook. There's a Facebook group called facebook.com/group/partiallyexcited. You can catch if you have an iPhone, you can catch it on Apple Music. If you have an Android, you can catch it on Spotify, YouTube. It's on Twitter, Instagram. It's everywhere. So if you want to get in touch, connect with those, or you can drop me an email at aronodowd@gmail.com. You can WhatsApp me. You can Telegram me. You can me. You can. I'm just everywhere at the moment in life.
Awesome. To use Kim's words, I'll say thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll leave you with that.
She needs to have a t-shirt made of that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, 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 thank you. Mwah.
Perfect.